The champagne flute shattered against marble as Brandon Pierce mocked his wife for being too fat, his cruel laughter echoing through their penthouse while his slim mistress Victoria Hayes stood behind him with arms crossed and a vindictive smirk. He left her that very night, divorce papers already prepared, but remained completely unaware she was the eyes to a multi-billion-dollar global fitness empire her grandmother had built from nothing. What Natalie Morrison did in the months that followed would shock him into a silence so profound he couldn't form words when their paths crossed again. But by then, the woman he destroyed had become the woman who would destroy everything he thought he'd won. The mistress who had helped him mock Natalie for being too fat would soon discover that the empire she'd dismissed was now preparing to crush them both. But the question remained, would Natalie choose revenge or redemption? And when Brandon finally learned the truth about the heiress to a multi-billion-dollar global fitness empire he'd thrown away, would his shock be enough to save him from the consequences of mocking her for being too fat and leaving her for a slim mistress who knew nothing about the power Natalie had always possessed? Natalie Morrison stood in front of the full, with mirror in her walk-in closet, her hands trembling as she tried to zip the emerald dress she'd purchased for their FTH anniversary dinner. The fabric strained against her sides but wouldn't close completely. Behind her reflection, she could see Brandon Pierce, her husband of 5 years, leaning against the doorframe with his phone in hand, his expression twisted into something between disgust and amusement. Still trying to squeeze into that, Brandon's voice dripped with contempt that made Natalie's stomach clench, but she forced herself to meet his eyes in the mirror. You know, I made reservations at Aurelio's, but honestly, I'm embarrassed to be seen with you looking like that. The words hit like physical blows, but Natalie had learned to absorb them over the past 18 months. She turned slowly, her cheeks burning with humiliation that she tried desperately to hide behind a forced smile. I'll wear something else. Just give me 5 minutes. Brandon pushed off from the doorframe and walked toward her with deliberate slowness, his designer shoes clicking against the hardwood floor in a rhythm that seemed timed to maximize her anxiety. He stopped inches from her face, close enough that she could smell the expensive cologne she'd given him for Christmas, back when she still believed their marriage could be saved. 5 minutes won't fix the real problem, Natalie, he said, his voice low, but cutting through the silence like a blade through silk. You've let yourself go completely. Do you know what my colleagues say when they see us together? Do you have any idea how that reflects on me? Natalie felt tears pricking at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall in front of him.